Okay, we are live streaming now. And I want to record this to the cloud. Okay, we are all set up. Good morning, everybody who's tuning in for Coffee Chat. My guest I should say, first of all, that I'm here in Sarah's place. We're trying to give Sarah a little bit of time off this week. She's been doing yeoman's duty, as many of you have been tuning in to our Where in the World programming. So we're giving Sarah the day off. So hence, I'm going to be your host today, Reid Coen from Imprint Tours. And my guest today is Anne Kuria. Good morning,
Yes.
Anne. Good evening to you. Where are you, by the way? Are you in Rwanda or Uganda this morning?
Right now, I'm in Kenya.
Yeah.
I'm in a
Okay, Kenya, next door. Okay, I'm gonna introduce Anne a little better in just a minute here, but first some housekeeping. The rest of the week, we just have two more things coming up this week. Early tomorrow morning, I'll have Todd Mentz from South Africa on. He's going to give us a virtual tour of Constitution Hill and the prison there in Johannesburg. So if you're up early in the morning and need some entertainment, we'll be starting at 7 a.m. Seattle time. That's 10 a.m. Eastern time. If you can tune in with your questions and comments, that always helps the programming go better. But of course, you can always come back to Sarah's Facebook page to see the recordings of these things. And as a reminder, logistically, we will eventually have our Where in the World pages on all three websites, with Sarah's, with mine, and with Andrew Vallone's, for reference to all of these programs, to other bits of information as well. And then on Friday morning, I will be doing a PowerPoint presentation on our Southern Africa tour. That will be at 10 a.m. Seattle time, if you can tune in for that. We've had pretty good Wi-Fi lately, but those of you who've seen me before know that I am personally cursed, and that quite often the Wi-Fi drops when I'm involved. If that happens, stay with us. We'll do our best to come back on, but of course, we are all slaves to that technology and that bandwidth issue that sometimes comes up. And of course, in East Africa, sometimes there can be power outages, et cetera, et cetera. So if things go that way, we'll just deal with it when it happens. Let's see. I think that's, and of course, as always, if you have questions or comments, I'll do my best to monitor for those during the program. If I miss something that was asked or said, I apologize, and I will certainly review that when we're done, when I'm not trying to do three things at once. Eventually, we'll get your questions and comments addressed. But if you'd like to ask a direct question of Anne, please feel free to use the chat function on the Facebook broadcast. Okay, enough housekeeping. Anne is the director of Nature Wild Africa. That's a tour and travel company that operates in East Africa. I met Anne a couple of years ago in Rwanda when we had a group. We had tours of East Africa at the time, and we did an extension into Rwanda to see the mountain gorillas. I'm going to move out of the way so you can see my mountain gorilla. There's the silverback. We'll say more about that in a minute, but that's our connection to Anne, and of course Anne is involved in other things as well. So I'll say good morning again, Anne. How are you this morning?
I am fine, Reid. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now here in Kenya, it's 8:05 p.m.
Okay.
It's an evening, morning for you. I'm happy to be with you here. Thank you so much for your invite. And yes, you're all welcome. Whoever is joining in is going to know more about East Africa and African tours.
Excellent. Let's start with that. Tell us about Wild Africa. How did you get that started? Why did you get involved in tourism? What's that story?
Well, it's all about nature. And let me say, right from the word go, or at an early age, I was so passionate about traveling. I love traveling. I love nature. And that's something I started way before when I was very young in school, actually. But as life goes on, after finishing school, you got to join the colleges, and eventually I got a job at the airport that enhanced more about tourism in me because I could meet so many tourists coming into Kenya. And that's what prompted me to really get into tourism. And I had to go to a real tourism college. It's called Kenya Utalii College here in Kenya. It's actually an African college because it takes all the students from all over Africa, mainly Botswana, Namibia, Ghana, Rwanda, the whole of East Africa, and some coming from South Africa as well. So my passion was met when I joined the college. And sure enough, after the college, I joined the tour companies. I worked for tour companies in Kenya, and that led me to East Africa, starting with Rwanda. Now I am in Uganda. And the name Nature Wild Africa is because it is all about nature, it's all about wild, and now we are in Africa. That's how the name came about. And
So
yeah,
how long ago are we talking about? When, how many years ago did you start Wild Africa?
Nature Wild Africa, I got into tourism in full for the last 20 years, from the year 2000, I would say. But Nature Wild Africa was born in 2014. After getting to know what East Africa is and what tourism we have and how beautiful the attractions of East Africa can be and how they can be connected from Kenya to Rwanda to Uganda, because there's those attractions that are in some of the countries and are not in others. Like gorilla tracking, we can only find it in Uganda, DRC, and Rwanda. In Kenya, you can find the wildebeest migration. So connecting that was easy. Most of the tourists who are coming into Kenya, they want to go for an extension of gorilla tracking, of the primate tracking, because they also have the chimpanzees, they have the golden monkeys in Rwanda and Uganda. So I felt there was something missing, the connection from Kenya to Rwanda and Uganda, and that made it perfect for me to base myself in Rwanda and Uganda.
How 20 years in the tourism business there in East Africa, what changes have you seen? What was it like 20 years ago compared to today?
I would say that tourism grew at an early age in Kenya, and it went flowing now to the rest of the East Africa. When I moved from Kenya to Rwanda, tourism was really like beginning in Rwanda in full attractions, where you could do all kinds of attractions. Other than gorilla tracking, we started the attractions in Akagera National Park. There is Nyungwe National Park. There's also other excursions you can get on the way, like of the mountains, of the lakes. I can say, in general, this growth. Where we began is not where we are. Mm. And it has contributed a lot to GDP also, because it is the main product that contribute to the government. The GDP of the government is highly depend on tourism, and they make a lot of efforts in developing, in growing and marketing. So jointly, the travel operators and the government have done really a good job to make sure that the growth has been marketed, and that's the reason why I would say it has really grown. Now, except now about the COVID-19 that has really made it difficult for all of us in the world, we are sure that even after COVID, we are going to go far. The growth will be seen, and we hope People have not really given up traveling. They still travel. We believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, I see on our side of the pond lots of evidence that they're so anxious to travel again. This hiatus, this COVID-19 hiatus that's prevented travel, and in particular international travel, is creating a huge backlog of interest, pent up demand. So when it becomes safe again, fingers crossed that that's sooner instead of later. I know people are ready to get out and travel. So okay, well, you mentioned the gorillas, and of course, that's the 500-pound gorilla in the room, if I can use a very bad pun. Uh, I know that our viewers today are going to want to know about the gorillas. Let me say, by way of introduction, that when I was with you a couple of years ago in Rwanda, I've traveled all over the world. I've had a lot of great travel experiences, but seeing the mountain gorillas, that experience of being that close to those animals was easily top five. And quite frankly, I cannot think of a single moment in my lifetime of travels that I would say was more powerful, more meaningful than that experience. So that's my preface to what I'm asking you to share, but yours would be a different perspective as a professional, someone who manages this. Just tell us whatever you want to about seeing the gorillas, about managing that, organizing it. What's that all about?
Reid, I will tell you, seeing the gorillas is a very thrilling experience. And let me tell you, each time you go to see the gorillas, you get a different experience. No matter how many times you go, you will see something different, you feel something different. It is really, we call it a lifetime experience. Because when you see face to face with those giants and they are not ashamed to look at you into your eyes, and they are huge, you really get thrilled. And also what is involved about the gorillas, we say they're our lost cousins. Our lost cousins. You look at that gorilla and you see yourself in it, and you start wondering what it's thinking because it's looking at you. You start, you know, wondering. It's an experience you cannot even explain how you feel. But tracking the gorillas, it is it's an activity one would always put in a bucket list to come and see, even if it's only once. What we do when we are organizing the gorillas trekking, of course, the gorilla permits are reserved early enough. Not at this time now because not very many clients will coming, but I'm sure when everything will be back to normal, when we get our businesses back, the normal rules will come back because we believe that so many people want to come now and cover what is lost in the 2 years now. We reserve the gorilla permits in advance, and you're free to reserve your gorilla permits even a year, 2 years before, just to be sure that you track those gorillas. We reserve, and with maybe a deposit or full payment. And then the actual day, when the actual day comes, after meeting the clients, we take them to the park early morning. The gorilla tracking are tracked only in the morning and only once. Each family of each of the gorilla family is tracked by 8 clients per day, not more. And I would say this is to conserve also the gorillas themselves, because we don't need to disturb them the whole day. It's a way of conservation. So what happens, you go to the park, the briefing is done, and then from there, you leave in your car and go to the starting point of the gorillas. starting point at the gorillas, you find some porters, those people who want to be helped to walk, to carry some backpack, luggages, the elderly. Maybe you want to be pushed. There are some strenuous gorilla treks that you come across, and sometimes maybe it's muddy. So some people always need to get porters. The average gorilla trek is about 2 hours, but at times you can walk even for as short as 1 hour, 30 minutes, depending on where the gorilla group is. At the starting point, you are with the guide, you are with the guards, and the trackers wake up very early in the morning to go and fight gorillas where they slept the previous night. So they guide the guides and the tracker and the guards to where the gorillas are. How? How do they guide them? They communicate over the radio, and when you're close, maybe they use voices in the forest to direct you the paths to pass. And when you get to the group, you offload all your backpacks, you leave them at a point, you get to the gorillas only with your cameras and your maybe not with any luggage. You cannot use any water, you cannot eat before the gorillas. So you watch the gorillas for only 1 hour. 1 hour you're allowed to view the gorillas, learn about them, and see how they relate to each other, see how they have formed their families. And after 1 hour is over, you track back to your starting point, get into your vehicles, and you call it a day. But that 1 hour is worth your visit. That 1 hour is thrilling. You'd always want to come back again to see those gorillas. It is, yeah, a lifetime experience.
I love the way you've articulated that, life-changing.
Yeah. I know that some people who have had many different experiences when seeing the gorillas, and they want to know whether they are harmful, whether they can fight back. But at the briefing point, you're briefed on how to behave when you're before the gorillas. For example, when a gorilla comes close to you, you're not supposed to run away. You're supposed to squat and don't look at it into the eyes, because you want to submit. Of course, you are in their territory and you want to show it that you are not here to fight, you're only here for a friendly visit. And because they are habituated, they are taught how to live with people, they know. Even if it charges towards you and you squat and you submit, it really cannot harm you. It can only walk away. Sometimes even the babies can come, hold your hand, and they are playful juveniles and babies who are around in the family. It is fun. That time is a time for your photo sessions, or for your partners to take good photos and show the world how good it is to come and see the gorillas in the wild. And the gorillas we have in Rwanda and Uganda are only mountain gorillas. Congo DRC, we have the mountain gorillas and we have the lowland gorillas, which are more huger than the mountain gorillas. So there are two different types of gorillas, mountain gorillas and gorillas. So in Rwanda and Uganda, you expect to see the mountain gorillas, and the families are many which are habituated, of course. In Rwanda, there are about 10, 12 families now. In Uganda, there are about 18 groups that are habituated. So yeah, they are friendly primates to see. And I would urge everyone to make a point of coming to East Africa and see the gorillas, including other wildlife.
I didn't want to interrupt, but your description brought back so many great memories for me. There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, when you were saying that you see them as lost cousins. That's such a good way to put it, because they're so human-like. You did a good job of describing that. My own experience, on many levels, they have human-like behaviors, and I think the thing that most impressed me was our guides, our tracker guides. They knew how to communicate with the gorillas. I mean, they literally knew how to make growling noises and rumbling
Yeah.
noises, and they have learned from their time with the gorillas how to communicate, how to let the gorillas know we're not a threat. If he sees the silverback getting a little agitated, he's able to calm them down. It was really amazing to watch that
You
communication
remember
between the
that
two.
sound?
Sorry,
Do you remember that sound that you're supposed to make when they
I
come
don't.
across?
How's that go?
In most cases, when a gorilla comes towards you, and it's really facing you, you're supposed to say, and then it responds. Actually, it responds with the same sound, and when it hears that sound, you making that sound to it, and it makes the sound back to you, you're safe.
Yeah. Well, at one and the same time, you see the power of these animals, especially the silverback. He's just kinetic strength, right? He's relaxed, but he's very wary. He's watching everything. He's particularly when we first arrive, he's watching us to make sure that we're not a threat. He's protecting the family, but you feel completely relaxed. They are so accommodated to Americans, to humans, that
Yeah.
I certainly never felt threatened at all. But at the same time, I could you could see how powerful this animal was, and if he chose to be aggressive, we wouldn't stand a chance, right? But it was very, very relaxed. And you talked about how the young ones will interact. This is my favorite part of my experience. We were watching, we'd been there for 20 minutes or half an hour, and there were a couple of juveniles, teenage gorillas, rough and tumbling, wrestling, and they started sort of rolling down the hill from above us, and our guide was like, move, 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 you're in the way. So, but I didn't move out of the way quite quickly enough. And as these two sort of teenagers went tumbling by, one reached out and swatted me right on the bum. Just like, it was like, you didn't move quick enough, but it was truly playful, right? And I just had a surge of emotion that I just had made
Yeah,
this
say
connection.
that.
And that was so much fun. And someone else in my group had a similar experience where the couple of the younger ones were sort of wrestling around, and one just reached out and pushed him, but not in an aggressive way, the way that kids play, and
Yeah, sure.
that was.
They're human. Mm. Actually, if you look at their family, it is only one male. That is a silverback, many wives and many children. It is a form of the human family.
I think another key piece of what you were sharing with us was the fact that they restrict the human-sized group to 8 people, right? So
Yeah, sure.
the morning we went, I think we had 32 people in my group. So we were
Yeah, sure.
divided up into 4 or 5 different groups. You get that briefing before you even head up into the mountains, right? Where everybody learns the do's and don'ts, and don't do this, and like you were just teaching us about, this is the right sound to make.
Yeah.
So you learn everything you need to learn before you go. Then you head up. But I think it's important that for our audience to know that by keeping the group to 8, then you're always sort of it adds to the intimacy. It's not like being in a group of 25 or 40 people seeing some big site in Europe or whatever. It's really it's intimate, it's small, and the gorillas always outnumber the humans, right? And so I thought that was a key piece that they have figured out. By keeping the human group small, it keeps it non-threatening, it keeps it interactive. I think that's a really they've really figured out something important there. And I also remember when you were talking about how you reach a sort of a point, whether you've had to slog through the mud for 2 hours uphill, or whether you find your guerrilla group right away. I was super lucky. My group, within 20 minutes of entering the little bamboo forest in the lower slopes of the volcano, they stopped us. They said, okay, we're going to leave your bags here. Just take your cameras. The gorillas are nearby. I mean, that was an exciting moment, when they said the gorillas are nearby. But what I'll never forget was, as soon as we did that and we turned to head uphill, there was a gorilla watching us the whole time, right? He was right there watching us the whole time, as almost to say, oh, here comes another group of those pale white things that come and visit us once in a while. So that was just a spectacular experience all the way around. I struggle every time to try to articulate how powerful and special that was.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about unless you've got more to add about the gorilla experience. I think we could say more, but I think we've covered the basics here.
Yeah, all I would say is just urge people to come and see the gorillas.
Yeah, come see the gorillas, because
Yeah,
I know something we need to talk about a little bit. This is a huge conservation success story. The way that the gorillas are managed there. There's so many other parts of Africa where the resource, the wildlife, there's poaching problems, there's encroachment of their habitat by human expansion and stuff. This is one of the true success stories from what I learned when I was there. Tell us something about that. Tell us how they've worked it out with the local farmers and whatnot to make sure that the gorillas are protected, and how the gorilla populations have been growing in recent years.
yeah. In the beginning, there was a lot of poaching of the gorillas, and people may know that Anne Kuria was living with the gorillas in Rwanda, and she really worked so hard to protect the gorillas in the beginning, and in the end, her life was taken through the same people who murdered her through poaching and everything else. But Rwanda did not stop there. They continued with her work and formed the fund that contributed a lot to growing the gorilla groups and continued protecting them. And organizations were set to make sure that the gorillas are protected, and they have educated the people who are living next to the gorillas. Actually, there are some people who are living in the forest and had to educate them and offer different habitats for the people. And what they did, they supported and educated them to support the gorillas and showed them how important they are and how beneficial they are to them. So what they did, they formed the organization like the CCN and the Anne Kuria FAD, and the Rwanda government itself contributed to giving those people land out of the forest and to make them share the conservation of the gorillas, and work and jobs like those potters. Those potters you see, they are part of the people who are living next to the forests. So they are encouraged to work for the gorillas instead of against the gorillas. What they do now, they work and they are paid separately by the clients who come by a way of supporting those people. You pay the porters directly, and that way you contribute to their livelihood. The schools were built. The kids started going to school because initially they were not even going to school. The hospitals, so many people came in with donations to make sure that the conservation of gorillas, then the people around them are supported in full to make them not do the poaching anymore. So what we have now is everybody supporting the activity. So everyone supporting the tourism, the gorillas, and the population from that time went up. Right now, there are more than 550, maybe approximately now. Gorillas in Rwanda or the side of Uganda is about the same. So we have over 1,000 mountain gorillas surviving for the in the Virunga Mountains and Bwindi National Park, and that's a commendable job. And we believe that each year they will go increasing, and that's why we have
Okay, looks like Anne has frozen for a moment and we've lost the video. Give her a little bit of time. Oh, there she's back.
Sorry.
We lost you for a moment there, Anne, but you're fine now. Continue.
Yep, sure, I'm back. Sorry.
That's all right.
We have even the recognition of the new gorillas being born. Every year in Rwanda, we have them gorilla naming ceremony every September, and there are new gorillas being born. So we believe they will go on, they can only go on increasing instead of decreasing, because everyone is in support of the gorillas now. And that's a good way of improving. And we have the gorilla doctors who always go to check on them and treating them, and the trackers always know where the gorillas are in the forest, how they slept, how their movements are, whether there is any sick gorilla, and call up the doctors for treatment. So we can only have a bigger number and not less.
I just love hearing that. I mean, it's such a good symbiotic relationship between humans and gorillas, and boy, we need to hear those stories. I mean, there's too many bad stories from Africa and elsewhere in the world about conservation measures not going well. And am I remembering correctly, Anne, that if by chance gorillas come down out of the forest and destroy some farmland or something, that there's a fund available from the money that people pay for the permits to compensate the farmers so that the farmers won't take retribution on the gorillas? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, exactly. And in most cases, because the trackers always are in the forest from morning to evening, they make sure that the gorillas do not come out to destroy the crops. And in any case, if that happens, yes, there's that compensation that they get from the government.
Excellent. It's just a great story all the way around. What other kinds of game viewing is there available there in Rwanda and Uganda, Anne?
Sorry?
I was asking what other kinds of game viewing, wildlife viewing is there available in Rwanda and Uganda? Oh, have we frozen again? It seems like we're having a little bit of, oh, and you're back again?
Yeah, sure.
Do I need to repeat my question one more time? We had you frozen there for a moment.
The question again, please.
Sure. I asked what other kinds of wildlife viewing is there in Uganda and Rwanda other than the gorillas?
Among the primates, we have the golden monkeys, we have the chimpanzees, and we have other monkeys like loess monkeys, vervet monkeys, we have in different parks. The golden monkeys are found in Volcanoes National Park in Rwanda. the same park with the gorillas, and the golden monkeys in Uganda are found in Gahinga National Park. We have the chimpanzees in Nyungwe National Park in Rwanda, and chimpanzees in Kibale National Park in Uganda. And also we have other chimpanzees found in Queen Elizabeth National Park, Kiabura Gorge, and other minor places like other wildlife are found in Akagera National Park. In Rwanda, we have the Akagera National Park for the normal wildlife. Mm. That is the savanna wildlife. For example, the elephants, the lions, buffaloes, and just what you find in other parks in Uganda, like Queen Elizabeth National Park, Kenya Masai Mara National Park. Basically, it's like a one-stop shop when you come to East Africa. You will get to see all kinds of wildlife, including birds, including the reptiles in the lake, the water life. It would be very nice if you come to Uganda and do a boat cruise for the wildlife in Kazinga Channel, on Kazinga Channel. That channel that connects Lake Edward and Lake Albert. You get on a boat and then you go on a safari on a boat, not in a car this time, but on a boat. It takes you so close to the banks where you see elephants, you see the crocs, you see the buffaloes, all the animals coming to take water along the banks, as well as what you see in the water. It's amazing. So other wildlife, name it, you get to see it in the parks of Rwanda and Uganda. That's where I am basically, and Kenya, where I get many of the clans coming for the expansion in Rwanda and Uganda.
So it sounds like what we did a couple of years ago, where we had our basic safari tours in Kenya and Tanzania, to then extend for a few days to Rwanda or Uganda. It sounds like that's kind of a typical way people do that. And of course, when you and I started talking about bringing another group from Imprint Tours, we had hoped to be doing an East Africa tour, but that has since fallen by the wayside. We're still hoping to do our Southern Africa tour this fall if things continue to go well with COVID. It's a little, for our viewers' sake, it's a little more complicated. It's not easy getting from Rwanda down to Southern Africa, but I'm here to tell you, and I think you can see from what Anne has been sharing, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it to make the extra effort to come to Rwanda, Uganda, to see the gorillas. I want to change subjects a little bit here. I think that apart from gorillas, probably what most Americans know about Rwanda is sort of a black period of their history, a dark time back in the 1990s when there was the horrible genocide there in Rwanda. I have to confess that mostly what I knew about what happened there, I learned from seeing a movie. It was called Hotel Rwanda. And you don't always get accurate history from a movie, but that's where I learned about it. But then I learned a lot more from the Genocide Memorial Museum there in Kigali. So why don't you, for our viewers, kind of give them a little historical catch up on the genocide in the 1990s and how things have gone since then.
Yeah, it was really a dark time for Rwanda. That was back in 1994, which started on 7th of April, 1994, and lasted for 100 days. 100 days of dark history. And in the end, it came to an end after 100 days, and it is something that one would never want it happen to anyone, anywhere in the world. Now, out of what happened, they opened a memorial center, Kigali Genocide Memorial Center. And this was made the final resting place of about over 250 people who are the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi. It is, like, I would say, the same people coming against each other. It's like one family. They speak the same language. They are in the same country. And I tell you, when you go to the memorial and visit, the visit starts with a movie of what happens and a story from people who are really affected by the genocide. It is quite moving, and it's also educative, very educative. It has now been made a place of remembrance and learning, because there's so many things, so many events that are happening there. And what it is, the Memorial Center itself is divided into three portions, three exhibitions. One is about the genocide, the Rwanda genocide of 1994 against the Tutsi. And the other part is for the children, and another part is for the history of genocide in the world. It is named wasted lives. Wasted life because it is not even recognized by the international law that there was genocide in those places. What you see, immediately you get to the Memorial Center, you go through a movie, and then from there you're taken to the exhibitions, get to see what really happens, the photos of very many people who were affected, and they have been, they have an archive that they have stored, the tools that were used, the clothes, and everything that happens, you learn it from the genocide. Otherwise, it is divided, or also now it's even growing much bigger to make sure that people in the world learn about it, and go and educate other people and see what conflict can cause to people's life and the consequences that are experienced after such atrocities. Now, from there, they have come up with the donations that support those people who are affected, and to expand the genocide memorial. Right now, we have the archive, we have the amphitheater where the events happens, because each and every year there is that ceremony held at the place. It is called Kwibuka. Kwibuka is a Rwandan word to say remembrance, remembering. And they say remembering is the greatest weapon to remind people what happened, and the consequences that people experience, the pain of the country, so that they will never repeat that again. And true to the word, they have really grown. The reconciliation has been done. Rwanda has really grown so fast. You cannot even say there was such a thing in such a short time ago, because the development that has come up through learning and through the support by the government is immense. The growth of the country is really tremendous. If you see Kigali City today, it is one of the best cities, one of the cleanest cities, one of the fastest growing cities. And right now, because they also put a lot of effort in education, the country has really moved on. And thanks to their president, President Paul Kagame, because he has really done Rwanda good. It is a job well done. What we can say about genocide is a place of learning. When you come to Kigali, what we do, we don't let people go out on a tour before they visit the genocide, because you need to know where it's coming from and you need to see what has been done after that. So when you get to Kigali, we let you visit the memorial, see what happened, and compare with what is happening right now. You appreciate the reconciliation, and you appreciate the change, appreciate the development, and at least be happy when you're going on a tour in Rwanda. Otherwise, when you take you at the end, people go crying. They say, why did you take us there at the end of the safari? It is so remorseful. It is, I mean, it is, that is the memorial for you. But otherwise, now we have the gift shop, we have the library where people can go learn, do research, and they have books you can read. They have audio guides you can take. When you go to each compartment, you press the button of that number, and if you're not able to read those small numbers, or if you don't have to read, you can listen to that audio guide. That audio guide goes for $15, and that goes to the support of the memorial. The gift shop, when you buy anything, that goes to the support of memorial. The whole memorial has taken a lot of Rwandans for employment, has taken a lot of teachers to teach them so that they can spread the word into the schools. And so many people, even researchers from all over the world, they go to the memorial to do the research. What you can do in their library, you can photocopy the material. They don't let books, but you can photocopy the material for the books you're interested in, either fiction or real. It is there for you. I mean, I know you visited Reid, and it is, you can go back there. Each time you go back there, you have a different feeling and you learn more.
Mm. Well, I do remember that, because I have, after all the things that I was saying about how powerful and moving the experience of seeing the gorillas is, I have to say that the memorial in Kigali is, in a completely different way, almost as powerful. It's the dominant impression when you come down off the mountain after seeing the gorillas is exaltation. You're on a high. You're buzzing. You're everything is positive. It's really quite the opposite to go through the memorial, because they've really done a great job there. What I remember is not only the film that you mentioned, that you sit down, that's the beginning of the visit. You see the film that brings you up to speed on the history, and it's sad, but it's basically the facts of the matter. Then you go into the rest of you start to go through the rest of the memorial, and like a museum, and there are a number of video places where you stand and watch, and it's primarily people that survived sharing their stories. That's where it starts to get really powerful. After you've listened to a half a dozen people talk about how they lost friends and family members and children and grandparents and whatnot, it starts to just break your heart. And then I also remember that there's a whole floor of the memorial that's dedicated to not forgetting other genocides. They've obviously got the Holocaust in Nazi Germany in the 1930s and early 40s. The stuff that was going on in the Balkans in the 90s. And then a couple that I knew nothing about, Namibia in the 19th century. And so it's a memorial to all those lost in genocides. And as you so well said, the whole point of exposing you to those things is so that you will be vigilant in remembering what has happened, and to be vigilant about making sure it doesn't happen again. And I've come to understand that's a little bit naive to think it can't happen to me, or it can't happen in my country. I mean, we had people storm our national capital just a month, 2 months ago. So, you know, the price of freedom is vigilance. And this memorial really does a powerful job. I do remember I was able to keep it together as I walked through the memorial, but as soon as I came out, I'm not too proud to say I broke down in tears. It was such an emotional experience to go through there. So that combination of being able to experience the memorial and then go and see the gorillas to me makes Rwanda and Uganda together a spectacular package for when you're talking about just a couple of days. The bang for buck is really something. So as Anne was encouraging you all, if you know, come to Rwanda, come to Uganda to see the gorillas, to experience the memorial, you know, because they're going to need those tourism dollars once the COVID thing is over. So that's our big message today. We're winding down here, Anne. I just wanted to ask you, as you know, I pretty much ask this of anybody that I have on that's involved in tourism. If you're willing to share, what are the challenges and rewards of your job?
Well, the rewards are we get to meet a lot of people, we get to grow ourselves, we contribute to the countries, we have also big developments, and we are also able to support those in need, either people, the animals. We are able to do a lot of conservation and basically well-being of both the country, the animals, and ourselves personally. So those are many rewards. If you put them one by one, it's quite a big list. And we are happy to do the tour operations, and we are happy to meet also other people and grow together. For us in Africa, we like 90% depend purely on tourism on the Western. And we are happy to have you on board because, as it is said, this part of the world is quite behind. So we are catching up. We are catching up. That is part of the reward we get. And to make sure that each and everyone have a fair share, the government have the share to the people who are operating the tours, like the tour companies, those people in the villages, they have grown, the developments of the roads, the development of the schools, share the ideas, the different ideas. That's quite a big thing, and that's what the world is made of, development and moving forward. Challenges on the same is when, for example, we have people who want to come, but we have limited number of gorilla permits to book per day. That part, the government is so strict. The government, both governments in Rwanda, Congo, Uganda, they are so strict about the conservation. So there's no way they can go beyond the number that they have set per day. And we have people who want to come. Maybe changing their program is a bit hard because it is your summer and you have your children at home and you want to make that travel, but there are not permits. There are no permits available. So what we urge people to do is to plan well in advance. If you know you're coming to see the gorillas, plan in advance so that you don't miss that. It is the main, for us in Uganda and Rwanda, it is the main activity for everyone. And without that, you will feel like you have missed a lot. For those people who are in Kenya, the extension, they come to Rwanda and Uganda, they feel that they have made the trip all the way to Kenya and they're so close to the gorillas. So they make sure that they have extended their tours into Rwanda or Uganda. Other challenges is about also the booking. It happens that peak season is peak season. Sometimes even the rooms are not there in the hotels. So that's another challenge we get. It is full and it is full. And where you can only be able to accommodate your client, it cannot be fun, especially when you're gorilla tracking. That activity has to start in the morning, very early in the morning at 7. You have to be at the park. So you cannot go so far. It is not somewhere you can say you will get accommodation like about 50 kilometers in the morning. And also remember, it is also in the parks where the roads are rough. Sometimes it's so rainy. We are in the rainy forests. It is muddy. So it can be a lot of challenge to get accommodation far from the park. These are part of the challenges we get. Otherwise, we enjoy each and every part to have people coming to see our parks, people coming to see our beauty. We have the lakes, we have the mountains coming for mountain climbing. We have like all sorts of attractions. One would ever want to see the scenery. The sceneries are beautiful. And we really appreciate your support, all of you.
I thought I was
So,
giving you an opportunity to tell stories about me, Anne, when I asked what the challenges of the job might be. I remember when I brought my group, there'd been some snafu about paperwork or something, and you literally had to run around my whole group while we were having lunch, getting, I forget, passport numbers or photographs or something. And I thought you must have been rolling your eyes about this group rolling in here with 30 people, all unorganized, but you saved the day. And then I'm guessing you'll recall that we had the challenge of the young girl, right? Who we had a 13-year-old girl, part of our group. And then we learned while we were there that there was a law in Rwanda that you have to be 15 years old to see the gorillas. And it was really awful for a while. There was a moment where I had to go and tell that little girl that she couldn't go. But then Anne and I and a couple other people worked out a solution. Do you remember that, Anne? We hired a car. We sent them to the border. We got them new visas. We made sure that they got to see the gorillas in neighboring Uganda. And it just cost some extra money. It was the easiest money I ever spent. But there are challenges like that in our business, and I'm glad that one turned out to be such a good story. Okay, well, we've run out of time,
yep.
Anne. To people who've tuned in, I don't see any comments or questions, but if I've somehow missed those, like I said at the beginning, I'll respond to those as soon as we're off the air here. A reminder, tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock Seattle time, live virtual tour of Johannesburg, South Africa with Todd Wentz, and then PowerPoint at 10 o'clock Seattle time on Friday to see the visuals that go along with all these things we've been talking about with Anne and Todd and people in Africa. So Anne, thank you for taking the time with us and sharing with us about your world in East Africa. And I'll say happy travels to everybody else, and to you, asante sana.
We can't wait to see you again. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Blessings. Bye.